I want to play a little game ski here. Uh, we're gonna call it optimistic or delusional. It's a fun little game. I like to just make up new games every week so that we just never, keep us on our toes a little bit. This one's called optimistic or delusional. At NBA District, friend of the show, Mr. Carter, Mr. Carter, always giving us good content to react to on the show. So this is an optimistic perspective for various NBA teams. Hey, do you like my IG notifications? Is that fun for you to see?
That's cool.
Yeah,
You should check those.
Yeah, I got some people like some stuff.
Let's do that live on the show.
Yeah, some people are liking our ads. Somebody followed me. Hey, Mary Pitzer, what up? But yeah, so little. Hey, why did they go away? Why did they come back? Okay, go away notifications. Yeah, Carter always giving us some good stuff to respond to. So just a few teams here. So we're just doing Central Division in the East, which, the divisions don't matter at all. But that's all we're doing here. What you and I are going to decide is this optimistic view that has been written here. Is this true optimism? Like, yeah, that's a good optimism.
John,
Or is it delusion?
I say it a lot just because I never know who's new on the show. And I know we have some new people here. I'm more of the NBA casual fan. I just self-admitted there. Compared to you, I mean, of course. Yeah. And this whole, I just see a lot of common things across certain fan bases. And it's this expectation that your best players are going to be fully healthy, raring to go come playoff time. And I don't know where that comes from, honestly. I know they load manage and stuff, but I don't know. I think you could say that they don't play their best when they're load managing all that much. And there's no guarantee they'll be healthy by the end of the year anyway, no matter how much you load manage. So I always think that projections, especially from a fan of a certain fan base, tend to be way too rosy an outlook when you know that the reality of the situation is kind of mid, honestly. And that's kind of exactly where I think the Cavs are. Pretty mid. One game above 500. That's about as mid as it gets,
Yeah. Okay. So to start off, thank you for jumping right in. The Cavs is the first perspective we're looking at. The optimistic view on the Cavs. Sorry, let me read it out for the audio listeners after this. The optimistic view on the Cavs is they're above 500 despite a combined 22 missed games from the expected playoff rotation. Plenty of time to get healthy and compete for the top spot in the East. Strus looks like a good pickup so far. I hear you. Yeah. Pretty mid. For many teams, I would say you're right. Like if it were the Clippers and they were like, oh yeah, well they're missing games. I'm like, yeah, well they're gonna miss games. They're the Clippers. If it were like a team like that, the Cavs have a pretty young playoff rotation that doesn't typically miss games, especially playoff games. So I guess we only have one series with this core unit of Cavs to really know for sure, but they haven't had like a missing games problem up to this point. So I think really at this point into the season, they're just kind of saying like, err on the side of health is all, which is it's something you don't see in the NFL. So you're a heavy NFL fan, more of a casual NBA fan. I'm more of a heavy NBA fan. You don't see very much like let's err on the side of health in the NFL outside of like the Chiefs might be like, oh yeah, we can rest that guy. It's week 2. We can rest that guy. It's all right. But like every game matters so much in the NFL that kind of you're playing. If you're able to play at all, you're playing. Whereas in the NBA, early in the season, this point in the season, you're going to see teams being like, yeah, let's just make sure everybody's healthy, especially if they feel like they're a playoff lock. This, I feel like optimistic view. So I guess let's land here. Do you think this is a delusional view for the Cavs?
Delusional's too strong a word, so no.
Well, your options are optimistic or delusional. Do you have a middle option that you want to add into this? I named the segment optimistic or delusional.
Okay. I can see the clickbait title forming right in front of my very eyes.
Yeah.
Let's see. Look like a good pickup so far. I mean, okay, it's not delusional. So I guess what are the options? It's what or delusional?
Is it an optimistic? It's this is just an optimistic point of view.
It's optimistic.
Okay, do you have a middle option that you would like to add into this segment that's already been named? Since you don't seem to want to land on optimistic on this.
I think that there's like a certain like what you see is what you get aspect to it. Because it also factors in like you're kind of when you point out that they might be, load managing or whatever so much here, or they're missing.
I don't think they're load managing.
Not load managing, but they're missing time from the guys who will be in the playoff rotation, right? Like you're kind of downplaying any other team who has any of that same issue. And I just think it all mostly works out in the wash. I think it's optimistic for sure. It's not delusional, but I think there's a good chance that they end up kind of right where they are, 8 seed, give or take 1 seed maybe. And I don't expect them to be way over 500, I guess, is really like where I'm coming from here. I don't think the record's going to drastically improve no matter what the circumstances change to be. I think they're kind of where they should be.
Okay. So you don't have another word besides optimistic or delusional to
yeah. What you see is what you get. Indicative. The current performance is pretty indicative of the future performance.
This is what it is. Okay. I would disagree with that. I think this is optimistic. I think they're going to end up above 500.
Well, hey, you made me pick, and I picked optimistic.
Yeah. No, but yeah, to your point, you think they are going to land on 500. I think they'll probably win 50 games. Maybe 45, but
I might take the under on 50. I'd like that. I like that bet.
Yeah, maybe 45. Maybe they're 45 and 37. But I think they're going to win somewhere in that 45 to 50 range. And yeah, like this team, it's team to team. A lot of teams you're like, yeah, I mean, they're going to struggle with health all year. The Cavs, I don't think that they're going to struggle with health all year. I think they're erring on the side of caution early on. Because they're trying to break through in the playoffs. And you do see this, right? Like the Heat basically err on the side of caution all year until they absolutely have to. And then they make a freaking deep playoff run.
I agree. But at least last year, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe you school me here, but I didn't hear too many people thinking the Heat were going to do what the Heat did last year either. So I'm not that fact.
It gets to a point. It gets to a point, right? So like the Heat, they pushed it too far. You know what I mean? Where it was like, okay, you guys are like in danger. You're in the play-in. Like your guys are in danger of not even making it. They even lost their first play-in game. Like they were like win or go home. So yeah, it does get to be too far. But like if the Heat are sitting on the 8 seed, the 7 seed, or whatever, like kind of where the Cavs are, if they're sitting on 500, which I don't know if they even finished 500 last year. Then everybody's like, yeah, they're fine. They're just, they're resting up. They're just resting up,
Yeah, that last point feels like a point in my column, honestly. But hey, that's okay. We're mostly the same on the Cavs. We're mostly the same.
The Heat pushed it too far. I don't think the Cavs will push it that far to where people will be like, I'm out. I don't think they're good. But that said, I don't think anybody thinks the Cavs are like an Eastern Conference Finals team anyways.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think that if this is meant to
they're a second round team. That's what they are,
Exactly. If this is meant to provide confidence that the Cavs are going to go win it all, because yeah, hey, they've done so good despite all this other stuff. I'm like, that's not all that much to work.
I think Cavs fans feel best case scenario they're a second round team. Sometimes you catch a path to an Eastern Conference Finals, right? The Hawks caught a path one year. So sometimes you might just kind of catch a path. So that could happen, but that's where I think every Cavs fan thinks they are. All right, moving on to the Detroit Pistons, currently 2-12. They're the 15th seed, they're the worst team in the East. Optimistic view on them. Things look rough right now, but having Jalen Duren, and missing Bojan Bogdanovic and Monty Williams for the full year so far isn't helping. So none of those players have played a game this year. The Cade, Asar, Duren trio looks great, but Killian Hayes is sabotaging the starting lineup. I'll start here. I think if you're waiting for Bojan, look, I love Bojan. Let me preface this by saying I love Bojan Bogdanovic.
He's the GOAT.
I love him, right?
John's favorite player.
Dude, if you're like basing your optimistic point of view on like, yeah, but when Bojan comes back, then it's delusional. I wish he would have landed on this, like what he thinks Pistons fans think can happen, right? Because I think best case scenario, I can't see Pistons fans thinking they're going to end up 500. Nobody thinks they're going to end up 500. So yeah, this one I'm going to just fully categorize as delusional. Using the optimistic point of view that a bunch of no-name players have been hurt. So what? They're all no-name players anyway.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar. I mean, yeah, this is a little bit more delusional than the Cavs for sure. One step further. But I don't see it too far separate. That's kind of where I am on these two teams. But this is on just the other side of that line. This is delusional.
Yeah, I mean, how optimistic could you even be as the Pistons?
That's what I mean. If does the optimism make any grand claims? No. Like, no. I think like Cade and
they're not
saying are good players. Fine, sure. This is not a good team,
they're good
and
young players. Yeah.
If you were gonna say when's the next shot they're gonna have at like a full blown championship in Detroit, is it in the next 5 years? If you had a gun to your head right now, no. They're not winning.
Yeah. I mean, 5 years on a 5 years time span, I might be like, yeah, maybe they're young, but I mean, I don't think so. No.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. No, they're a bad team. We can move on from the Pistons. Next up, Pacers. Optimistic perspective. So they're currently 7-5, 7 seed. That's not that great, but it's okay. Optimistic view. Can't complain about holding a playoff spot in the East. Hallie has looked incredible, and the team is picking up wins with a fairly young core of players. There's no pressure for them to win right now because of their young core, but they're still doing it. Optimistic or delusional?
Yeah. I think the way that these takes are worded, I have to kind of twist the words in order to like make any of them delusional, right? Like this is kind of a stacked deck.
Well, because he didn't like land. So if that
Mr. Carter here knows his way around some social media posts. You know what I mean?
He didn't like land on like saying what fans.
I would love to have him to like put in a final season record or like where they finished in the playoffs or something. Because none of these takes are delusional so far. But I will say that this is by far the team I'm the most optimistic about. I think that they're well above either of the other teams that we've mentioned so far to me. And I think in large part because of a point that you actually, I pride myself when you give me kudos on a point that I make. And to me, the Pacers have just far and away like a better A1 player on their team. Maybe I'm too high on Hallie, but I mean, even compared to like Don with the Cavs, I think they have a better best player. And that just means a lot when you play.
Oh, you think Hallie's a better best player than Don?
Give him, all day. I love him.
Right now, today, you think that?
I was particularly by like season's end, right? Like, because that's where I'm talking about, like come playoff times and things like that. Where I do think a lot of times that's.
I think he's a better player than Don in 2 years, but not right now.
I'll say by the end of season. I think that he's obviously got a lot of growing to do. He has been off to an incredible pace, right? He's been great. I don't see any reason why that has to like come back down to earth or anything like that. Hallie is a better player.
They definitely do different. They definitely do different things too.
For sure.
Don is jobs to score, and
it's easier to say that Hallie's skill set shows up on a nightly basis, but I think that helps my point more than anything. Like he is going to be a difference maker more often than Don is going to be, and I think at the end of the day, especially in the playoffs, those best players on their team. I mean, that's what we talk about. Are you a guy? Does your team win when you're there?
Yeah.
And I think Hallie is more quickly going to be that guy than Don will be if Don ever is real. Oh, Don is that guy, but
he is. Yeah. So I would disagree with you. I would disagree with you on the Hallie Don comp. I think Don's definitely that guy and is like.
Well, I mean, a post-Jazz player, former Jazz player.
Sure. Even if I'm biased, it's the skill set is more that skill set of like games on the line. Are you going to like? Can you get a bucket? Whereas like Hallie's not just that bucket getter. And like, so the emphasis on that skill set in the NBA is pretty huge. Hallie gets buckets, but it's a lot of like the, when he's supposed to shoot, he does type of buckets. I think in 2 years, Hallie's a great piece, like to amplify a team. He's a very Chris Paul type player. I think Don is like, he's just a different thing. He's a scorer.
Hallie gets plenty of buckets on his own for one, but I do think he is still the best player on the team. And even though it might come from just like spreading the ball around a little bit more and other things, some hustle stuff, I still think he is a better player at the end of the day. And even if he is passing for a big assist, a big dish at the end of the game in a big game, okay, who cares if it's a different guy who makes a shot? You don't have to be this point scorer, I don't think, to be the guy who makes a difference in a tough matchup. That's my take, I guess.
Yeah, I get you. I hear you. Hallie creates, and then he takes the option that he's supposed to take. So if that's shooting, he shoots. If that's passing, he passes. Don is going to say, I'm going to get the shot I want, and he's going to get the shot he wants and hit it or not hit it. a lot of times you really want to simplify the end of a game, like a last shot type situation. You really want to simplify it. You don't want to run some action. You don't want a 4-read situation. You want to say, hey, give it to our best player. You get to a spot and hit a shot. Hallie's not that guy. Don is. And that's to me goes a long way in the NBA. So until Hallie gets to that point where I'm saying like, yeah, look, I get that you're a point guard, but you got to have that takeover, like hit the last bucket, like in your blood. I think he's 2 years away from that. But
I'll back you up on that. I'd love to see that develop in his game.
Yeah. So I do think this is a solid optimistic perspective for the Pacers, though.
For sure.
Next up, Bucks. Optimistic perspective. The optimistic view that is written here is on pace for 57 wins, and they have a record of 9-2 when Dame plays. There's some potential problems that need to be worked out by playoff time, but it's a long season, and they aren't behind record-wise. I think the potential problems that he is referring to is the fact that they are like the 25th defense. They might be a little bit better on defense now, but they're not good on defense is the gist of it. Optimistic view or delusional? I mean, you got to understand that a Bucks fan, it's a win. It's a championship. It's a ring.
Right. I do. First of all, that's not in this take, right? Like that isn't in here. So again, I think
we're having to project a little bit on like what do the fans really think is possible here, but
totally. But as far as what's written here, is this an optimistic view or not? I think this is just like a really, this is a very descriptive, accurate view. This is accurate. That's the word I should have used, by the way, before when I was at a loss for words. This is just accurate. There's nothing optimistic about this. These are good facts. I think nothing feels like a stretch that's like a homer take, right? They aren't behind record wise. They're fourth in the third in the East. Yeah. Right. So doing great. Who complains about being third in the conference? I mean,
I'll go so far.
Maybe a team who thinks they should be first, but yeah, I think they will get better. This is early in the season for a major acquisition. And they already look pretty good with him, so I don't see why they wouldn't get better. I like this. Yeah.
I'll go so far as to not even just call it accurate, to call it truly optimistic based on what I think Bucks fans wants. Yes, their defense is bad. Yet with a bad defense, they're still winning games. People have criticized Dame for kind of underperforming, and then they have to get those in quick, though. I told you last week they had to get those shit posts on Dame in quick because that next night he put up like 36 and 13. I mean, it's I will call it optimistic because I do think that I see the Bucks as like a very real contender for a championship, especially if they can get out of the East. They can get past the Celtics. If they can get out of the East, I mean, look, the Nuggets are tough. Do I think that the Bucks can beat them? If I'm gun to my head, I take the Nuggets to win the championship still, but I'm very seriously consider the Bucks even more so than any other team. I still think that as well put together as Boston is, they lack some kind of like real spiritual leader. You know what I mean?
Forget about the West.
They need a shaman.
Forget about the West. What % chance do the Bucks have of winning the East, getting to the finals?
Higher
than any other team in the East.
Versus the field. % chance, probably the highest is Boston. But I think second highest, and I think very close.
That's what I needed to hear, and that's what all the Milwaukee fans needed to hear too.
Yeah, and I kind of like them. I give them the edge.
I agree with you, by the way. I don't think they are going to be the team that makes the finals. I mean, if everything goes,
I think they will be. No, I that's what I mean. I give them the edge, but
wait, didn't you say the
percentage likelihood? Probably the Celtics. Like if we're just kind of trying to be objective about it and say. Who has the highest likelihood of coming out of the East? It's probably the Celtics, highest likelihood. Celtics are also deep. Bucks really get derailed with an injury to one of their 2-star players, where the Celtics can handle that a little better, especially if it's not Tatum. Right. Percentage likelihood, probably the Celtics, but I give the Bucks the edge. I think the Bucks are actually both teams at their best. I like to think about that a lot too. Like who's the best at their best? Both teams at their best. I think the Bucks are better.
I like that take. I do think it'll be this. I like everything you worded in that, but I would take the Celtics sooner to get to the finals than them by just the smallest amount.
Last up, Chicago Bulls. The freaking worst. I can't stand the Bulls, man. Like it's like in the NBA right now. Here's the 2 things that annoy me most. It's like number 1 thing that annoys me most: Draymond Green. Can't stand him. Get him out of here. I'm done. Number 2 thing that annoys me: Chicago Bulls. Dude, you guys are so good from like a talent perspective, but yet you suck, and you've sucked for like 4 years. The optimistic view that Carter put here is, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe there's Chicago fans listening. Like, I think Chicago fans agree with me on this, right? Like, I'm not obviously not a Bulls fan, but like, I don't really hate the Bulls. I have no malice toward the Bulls. I'm just saying, like, whatever this is, it's just not working. It's like dumb, and hopefully Chicago fans are ready to move on, honestly. The optimistic view Carter wrote was, it's never been an easier decision to enter a rebuild. LaVine, DeMar, Caruso, and Vucevic should be on the move ASAP. You can bring together a new young core to represent Chicago basketball. Casey, optimistic or delusional? I already know where I stand on this. And
I think that it is not common enough a take that NBA teams need to strip down to the bolts and rebuild.
That's a very common take. It's just not common from me.
Right. Well, at least on this show, it's not represented enough. So I'm going to keep hammering on it because, there's this team and more who should consider this in a much realer way. And I think I'm not just trying to cram everything into the same narrative here, but I think this goes to speak to the value of a guy like Hallie, where, I look at these guys, historically in their careers, like LaVine, DeMar, Vucevic, maybe not Caruso, but these are bucket getters historically, right? And why isn't it working? It's because you got too many of those guys, and none of them are really emerging as that much better than the other one. And if you had a guy who was a little bit just something else, but still a good player, which I think is becoming more and more rare in the league compared to these guys who just grow up being bucket getters. Like those guys are a little weird to say it, kind of a dime a dozen. You have 3 of them at least here on this team, and they can't win games. So I don't think the bucket getters are what makes team go.
The real bucket getters are not a dime a dozen. These guys are like,
I get what you're saying.
These guys are fake bucket getters. They're like decent mid-range players, and every now and then, like DeMar had a year where he was good in the clutch, but they're not like, these guys are just not actually that good. These guys are guys who should be the second or third best player on a team.
Yeah. I do agree with that too. But if Hallie were on this team, he'd be the best player. So
he would be
from a different player archetype.
Hallie would not fit on this team. It's just not like, there's the way that they score is like, there's no distribution, there's no ball action. It just,
there should be though. That's what they need.
Yeah. So I this is delusional. I don't think they should full rebuild. So to say DeMar, LaVine, Caruso, and Vucevic should all be on the move, no. LaVine should stay. He's 28 years old. You can still build around him. But you need to make him the second or third best player on the team. And you need to find like somebody who's like a real actual best player.
Isn't
not
that what
Zach
they tried
LaVine.
to do when they brought in DeMar though? Rewind.
No, DeMar, I don't think anybody thought DeMar was that much better than maybe. I don't know. Maybe they did, but DeMar is just LaVine 2.0.
DeMar was having an incredible year before he
LaVine is DeMar 2.0, I should say. Well, he was playing in San Antonio and they were not good, right? Like DeMar without Kyle Lowry has always just been a pretty good guy who gets 20 points on a team that sucks.
I'm not saying they were correct.
He's D'Angelo Russell.
I'm not saying they were correct.
D'Angelo Russell.
That's what they were after when they brought DeMar in, though. That's what I'm saying. Like they were trying to
I don't know. I think maybe they thought DeMar was that much better than LaVine. I think they thought it was just, well, LaVine's really good, but he's not quite like a top 10 or top 15 player. Like DeMar, he's another one. Like we just get 2 top 20 players instead. And I'm like, that's just not working. You need to make LaVine, you need to find someone who can truly make LaVine like the second best player. And then you'll have a good team. Right. But and then like build better, like stop with the mid range. Like, bro, you only need one mid range guy, and that's like one too many, honestly.
DeMar is a perfect example though, because he goes from a team like the Spurs who play way better like team basketball to this crapshoot, right? And all of a sudden his career just looks sad compared, because he was putting up crazy numbers with the Spurs there. He was on an especially hot trend before he left for Chicago.
He was putting up good numbers for his first year in Chicago as well. I can't remember what his numbers were with the Spurs, but if I remember right, I want to say it was, I don't know, 20, 25 points a night on a team that lost all the time. And to me, I'm like, if you lose all the time, dude, there's only 5 guys on the court, right? If you're the best player on a team, y'all lose all the time, then you're just not actually that good. Like one player can impact the game that much. So yeah, I don't know. I guess for me, I was never under the illusion that like DeMar was going to come change the Bulls, but it's also,
I didn't think he would change the Bulls, but I think his stats have dropped off quite a bit. And I think that's tough to explain why, other than the team just sucks.
There's more guys that need to eat. When he was in San Antonio, dude, there was nobody else there. It was just like him, and that's it. Like he was part of the
Devin
Kawhi
Vassell?
trade.
Are you Devin?
Yeah,
Vassell?
but I don't even know if Devin Vassell was there yet. Like he was part of the Kawhi trade in 2019. So yeah, I don't know.
There was crossover, but that was a joke anyway. Devin Vassell's not him. I'm not.
No, yeah, I mean we're talking about like rookies, right? Yeah, dude, I don't know. DeMar. The Bulls, I think the Bulls shouldn't do a full rebuild. Full rebuilds almost never work in the NBA. The draft is too much of a crapshoot. You can build around LaVine. And, like, honestly, if you just say, okay, it's LaVine's team until we can find someone else, you'll probably actually win more games if they have that clarity, honestly. That's the Bulls, in my opinion. And that's the segment, Casey. Was that fun? Did you like that?
Love it. I gotta give a note to my guy Carter. Love everything he does on social media. Yeah. You gotta like be more. You gotta be more out there with the takes. I mean, if you're
he is a middle. He is like a go down the middle type.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the analysis. I think it was all very astute, but it's just not like inflammatory enough. I mean, we need to piss some people off, or we're not doing our jobs right.
Right. All right, we're pulling up the wheel. We're gonna do a spin. We're gonna do a mid-episode spin here. Let me see if I can get a little zoom. Nope, I can't. All right. So I have been getting you all as you come into the chat. So if you have not chatted, that's why you're not on the wheel. So S Weber, Sweeber 74, Amanda Brad 23. I got you. Jake 213. I got you. Somebody else was in here a second. So those are the new people. I think Chris V. Do I have you? No, Chris V. Oh yeah. We can do a little search function, huh?
Amanda Brad? Is Amanda on there?
Yes, Amanda Brad, I got you.
What's up, Amanda Brad?
Chris V. So this won't be our only spin. We'll give away more stuff, but yeah, Chris, got you. Who else? Who else do we need to get on here? Adam, I got you. Ralix. I don't think I have you on here. Let's see. Ralix. Adding you. James Brown. Nope. James Brown, if you're here, you got to tell me. If you don't see yourself in you have to be able to chat. So if you haven't created an account or you haven't joined our room, then you can't chat and I can't see you and I can't put you on the wheel. So make sure that you do that. Yama. Let's see if I have Yama.
Yeah, Yama's on there. Poppin' Fresh helping out. Thanks, Poppin'. Appreciate it.
Yama.
Yama be there.
Yama burn this place to the fucking ground. Keela, I don't know if I got you. Let's see, Keela.
What's up to everybody in the chat? How you doing? We got a lot of the regulars here, a lot of new faces too. So welcome to the Triple Cross Podcast, everybody.
It's a new face kind of day, but you got to be able to chat if you want to be on the wheel.
What up, man? That's okay. Jake 213. We got Jake on the wheel. Jake's on the wheel.
Jake 213. Dude, Jake, have you just been changing your name? Because I had you at
digits.
Jake 213, and then you were Jake 213312, or is there two Jakes? You just got to clear this up for me. Jake, yes, got you.
Yama Dolo says we can make a song out of her name. I think that'd be like Yama Dolo.
Well, I think we already did. Okay,
like a little
That's
Jason
good.
Derulo. I don't know.
Yama Dolo. I don't want to walk this earth if I gotta do it.
Dolo.
Yes. You knew.
Got you, bro.
Yeah. It's really just Adam making more accounts, said Poppin. All right. I'm going to spin it. We're not going to hang out here all day for the people who are
John,
not.
Spin that shit.
This is a $25 gift card to our partner, DAP Sports. We will do another spin after this, and it's a new person who got it. AJ. Oh, I don't know if AJ made it over, guys. AJ was on the other show.
AJ.
AJ did not make it over, which means we're running it again. We're running it back. Sorry, guys.
Ooh, bye. Sorry about it.
AJ not here. Gonna do another one. And again, gonna do another spin at the end of the show. So hang out if you don't win this one. You still got a chance.
Spin that shit.
Smokey. Oh, it's gonna be a new person. Which one is it gonna be? Amanda Brad 23.
Congratulations. More like it.
Congrats, Amanda. new person. So in order to claim your gift card, you email triplecrosspodcast@gmail.com. Please allow her a couple days to respond to you. That's Megan. You can call her Megan. Yeah. Please allow her a couple of days to respond to you. It's not our full-time gig, so she just is getting back to you when she can, but she will get you your gift card to DAP Sports. You can get signed jerseys, you can get memorabilia, you can get cards, all kinds of stuff there. We are doing more spins at the end of the show. If you didn't get in on that spin, then that's all right. Sign in to Playback, create your account, join, chat in. If you chat in, then we can see you.
And all your wildest dreams will come true.
Chat in and all your wildest dreams will come true. All right, Casey. I want to talk about 3 NBA teams people are sleeping on. I'm not saying all people, because I don't know that we're sleeping on these teams. Some of these teams, so like one of these teams, I think we're fully awake on. We've been awake on them for a minute.
We're woke. Are you saying we're woke?
We're woke to it, right? One of these teams, I think, at least for me, I will say, I'll admit it, I'm at least snoozing on them. It's a light sleep. I'm maybe not fully like dead asleep in REM, but I'm definitely in like stage 1 or whatever they call that part of sleep where you're like, I'm a little asleep. When you sleep sometimes and you can like still hear what's going on around you? Does that ever happen to you?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's one of these teams. And another one I was fully dead asleep in REM cycle on. So let's get into it. First team is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Casey, don't look now, or you can look now if you'd like to. Don't look now, or do look now. The Timberwolves are in first in the West. React to that statement. Timberwolves are in first in the West. Is that shocking to you? I mean, it's shocking to me. So, was I asleep on them? No. I think I was. People were criticizing this Rudy Gobert trade so much last year. They're like, this is the worst trade. This got to be the worst trade in the recent NBA history. Look how bad they are. Okay, yeah, but they were missing Cat for like 25 games last year. So they didn't even have their actual squad. They didn't have their really second best scorer or first best scorer, depending on the night. We've got another year of development for Anthony Edwards. We got Cat kind of like accepting the role a little bit, playing defense more, like not accepting that it's a defensive team where he shares the offensive load. It's not like the, Karl Anthony Towns show. And Rudy back to form, protecting the rim, playing great D. I think a lot of people thought Rudy was washed. I don't think he's washed. I think this is what Rudy looks like on a team that can play. So it's because he was kind of like getting exposed, like people, he's getting exposed a little bit more. He's not, playing defense as good as he used to. What it is that he's having to cover for people, right? You put a team full of bad defenders around him, and they're like, he always plays drop. He never comes out to the perimeter. Well, it's because he's always trying to cover for somebody else. If everyone else can play perimeter defense, then he'll come out to the perimeter on his guy. He'll do whatever he needs to do. Guy knows how to play defense. He's like a 30 you don't win depoy like 3 times on accident. That doesn't just happen on accident.
I agree with you, John. On a recent episode, I'm pretty sure I named the Timberwolves to be a team that people need to look out for to some degree. I think Edwards is a guy coming into his own. He's another one of those guys. Definitely not hit his prime per se yet, right? Or at least the prime of his prime. And when you got role players playing their job, that's kind of what makes NBA teams go, right? Rudy Gobert certainly qualifies as a role player. Very important role. If anybody knows anything about anything I've ever said about basketball, I like a very particular style, and the Timberwolves have the personnel to play it. Yeah,
the Timberwolves are number 1 in the West and number 1 in Casey's heart with the top defense in the league.
That's not well. I mean, I do love me some defense for sure. Yeah, so Rudy is a guy.
You're gonna have to make a decision whether you like great defense or whether you like Steph Curry.
On my 2K teams, Rudy Gobert is involved very often. He finds value on my team. But hey, I mean, I don't want to lend too much credence to my 2K teams because I also tend to have like Ben Simmons and things like that. So let's move on from that.
You value speed highly. Yeah.
Speed and I like to have 2 bigs in the lineup, and the Timberwolves have the best 2 big lineup in. I mean, not even arguably. I think it's pretty inarguable at this point, right? Best.
It just depends if you consider LeBron a power forward or not. But yeah,
I wouldn't call him a big. He's too. I think I'm different than most people. Again, I'll admit I'm a bit more casual. I've from a little bit more of like the 90s period. But to be a big, I'm like, well, you're not really like a ball carrier. Cat is a borderline big, right? He has to be a big by the nature of he's enormous.
Yeah. If somebody's 7 feet tall, they're a big, you know?
Yeah. He plays like not necessarily pure big ball. When you got a guy like Rudy, I mean, he plays like a big and a half. Like he does nothing that a little guy would do in the NBA. He only does all the dirty stuff. And I love those kinds of players. So Rudy's getting it in, bro. The Timberwolves are a good team. Do I think they're the best team in the West? Do they deserve to be at the top right now? Sure. Why not? Nuggets breathing right down their neck. The Thunder playing great too. I think the West is stacked. That's a pretty common take on our show.
Usually,
the West is stacked. The Timberwolves, I don't think will be the 1 seed. I don't think that's a hot take, but I don't think the Timberwolves will remain the 1 seed forever. But I think they'll be a good team.
The Timberwolves have an interesting dynamic in makeup. They've played the Nuggets. They beat the Nuggets, one of the few teams to beat the Nuggets. They have an interesting counter dynamic, right? There's like a very clear way. Yeah, there's a very clear way to win NBA basketball games these days, and it's to run 5 out, value offense highly, and value your defenders are 2-way players, right? You don't have any pure defenders. The Timberwolves have essentially said like, well, that's the Nuggets. That's what they are. That's what they do. And they have maybe the best player in the game right now. We've got another guy kind of like that guy who's just not as good, right? So if you look at Jokic, you look at Karl Anthony Towns, similar skill sets. Jokic probably a little bit better passer. Cat probably a little bit better rebounder. But Cat just clearly, he's not as good as Jokic, right? And so does Minnesota say, well, let's model after the Nuggets? And they're like, no, let's build something completely different, right? Like whatever you're going to get from the Timberwolves, you're going to get a different look. So if you're going to ask me about a sneaky team to win the West, yeah, I think the Timberwolves are a sneaky team to win the West because they're different, because they're not trying to do the same kind of NBA team that every other team in the West is doing, where we have a superstar, we build around a superstar. They're like, nah, we're going to grit it out on defense. They've held 5-6 games out of their, what do they have, 13 to under 100 points. I mean, they're like, you better come ready to make hard ass shots if you want to play us. And I love it, dude. I love it. Timberwolves are high school mascot, so that's got something to do with it as well. You know,
it's not nothing. John, real quick question.
They know. They're like, hey, this is John and Casey's high school mascot. Like, we got to do this shit, guys. Like, we can't ruin this for them.
John, litmus test here. 4 teams. Do the Timberwolves finish above the Clippers in the regular season?
In the regular season, yes.
How about the Warriors?
In the regular season, yes.
How about the Lakers?
In the regular season, yes.
How about the Thunder? Sneaky half game behind them is all.
No.
Wow. John's way high on the Thunder.
Dude, did you see Chet's freaking turnaround 3-pointer against the Warriors? Wiggins finally has a good game. Hits a dagger 3-pointer to win for the Warriors. Less than a second left on the clock, maybe 1.2 seconds left on the clock.
Bro, I didn't see that, and I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I don't know how. I still in this moment I don't know how to feel about that, because I like the Warriors,
Wiggins,
but I love me a Gonzaga player, bro.
Yeah, so Wiggins puts it away for the Warriors with a 3. The Thunder inbound, he doesn't have time to dribble. Inbound, he hits a turnaround jumper from the corner with Wiggins in his face to send it to overtime, and then the Thunder win. Like, this guy's for real. I love the Thunder now with Chet, with Giddey healthy, with Chet. Now, the Thunder are probably a little more susceptible to injury than the Timberwolves. I think if the Timberwolves lose Ant, that's not great, right? Because if we're looking at scoring, Ant is putting up 25.8 points per game. Karl Anthony Towns, 21.5 points per game. After that, it's Naz Reid at 12.4, Rudy at 12. Rudy's a lot of cleanup points. It's a lot of offensive putbacks, a lot of throwing down lobs. And then Mike Conley at 10.5. They really, really lack scoring if Anthony Edwards gets hurt. And Anthony Edwards is a guy who likes to play every game. He does not like to load manage. He's young still.
I love that. Love that.
I know. I love that Ant has like the energy to like, he's like, hey, this load managing stuff, it's stupid. Draymond jaws at him, he jaws right back. Timberwolves keep beating the Warriors. I'm in on Anthony Edwards. He's got that Michael Jordan energy. He's got the Michael Jordan look.
There was a time on this podcast a year ago about thereabouts where I was fresh off of watching, again, more of a casual basketball fan. And I was fresh off of watching a Kawhi Leonard highlight reel, like of his whole career, right? And I thought, man, talent-wise, like big playability-wise, this might be the best player in the NBA. Like, he really looks like that when you watch a highlight reel of him. His value in my mind has just plummeted, coming to understand how much time he misses. I don't actually know if it comes from him or just coaching staff or whatever. I don't know.
This year, none. He's played every game this year. I would love to see that trend continue.
I just think it's. I don't want to throw on the soft term, right? But I do think it's a soft. Forget about physically, even. It's a soft mindset thing to be like, no. We just got to keep you healthy, and then you'll be playing your best ball by the playoffs, and we'll just win in the playoffs. And like, when does that ever work? Like, I mean, I get you said, look, the Heat did it, sure, but like again, nobody. Really, maybe the Heat
Lakers,
but nobody really saw the Heat doing it last year. I'm like, you can't predict that because if 10 teams think they can do that and one of them pulls it off, I'm like, that's a fallacy. You can't do that. Then, like, you can't do that.
Yeah, the Heat are one. The Lakers would be another one. I mean, it happens every year, is what it is. To a few teams, 2 or 3.
That's fair, but I do think teams over-index into it too, because we also don't know, by the way, if those teams would be in the same spot or better had they not done it. So it's one of those.
Well, it's not always
outcomes that you're predetermining a good outcome based off.
It's not always by choice. Kawhi might not have been playing at all in the playoffs if he didn't rest how much he rest. I don't know. I don't know his body, but I think that's.
Oh, I know his body, bro. I've studied every inch of his body.
I'm deep in his body.
Oh, bro. Yeah.
Yeah. His hands have been all over my head, face, and neck at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the Timberwolves, team 1, team 2, everybody is sleeping on. All right. Give me yours on this. All right. Team 2, everybody's sleeping on the Indiana Pacers. How asleep are you on these guys?
I mean, this is
first before we move to the Pacers. How asleep do you think you were on the Timberwolves? Light sleep, heavy sleep, fully awake?
Dare I say, like at most nodding off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At most, not really.
You definitely. I mean, I think everybody was at least kind of asleep on him coming into the season from last year.
I think I was higher than consensus for sure on a team like the Timberwolves, just because of my philosophy about basketball. But I mean, I would say nodding off maybe a little bit, but not like. Not sleeping hard, you know.
Okay,
big fan of Anthony Edwards. So
yeah, Pacers.
Yeah,
how asleep are you on them, or how asleep have you been? I mean, this is probably not a team everybody was super hot on coming in the season.
I think that sounds crazy to me. I just don't get it. Again, I think I judge a lot of teams more or less based off of like who is your best player, and I do think that people over project teams who have multiple stars and expect them all to play like stars all at the same time, a la the Clippers, let's say. Hard to have 4 stars on the court at the same time, all looking like stars, you know? Meanwhile, I think that the teams who get underappreciated are the teams with good role players who do have a really good legitimate star still. And I think Halliburton qualifies. I mean, maybe
by and large, the teams. The reason that happens, by and large, the teams that have won championships, like if you look over the last 15 years, are multiple star teams. There's some exceptions. I mean, you could say Murray isn't a star, and the Nuggets are a 1-star team. You could say that the 2022 Warriors. Like Curry is the only star, and Wiggins or Draymond or Clay wasn't a star, but besides that, it's almost always multiple star teams.
I hear what you're saying, John, but one team gets a ring at the end of the season, and okay, I mean, I can speak factually about this. There's more than one team who has multi-star kind of game plan, multi-star roster, right? I mean, more often than not, even that strategy does not work. Like they won't work in the way of being the best team in the league, right? John's kids really love basketball. They want to get it on the conversation. They are a big fan of Tyrese Halliburton as well. You see that? Did you guys see that? He just picked her up by the arm and just threw her out the door. Just kidding, John. That never happened. It's fiction. John can't hear me either. He doesn't have his headphones on. But I think he got it by my arm. Anyway, yeah, John, what do you think about the Pacers?
I was awake on the Pacers, and to your point, Casey, they had a best player all year last year, and Tyrese Halliburton. They didn't even make the play-in. They had him all year, so I think it's pretty fair for people to have been asleep on them. I think that, it's just they get better. He gets better with time, and they didn't really make any moves, right? It's like they didn't put anyone new around them or anything like that.
Right.
So in all honesty, I do think the Pacers, and I think that maybe where I had them, I can't remember where I had them in our projections, but maybe winning one series in the playoffs, or maybe just barely scraping into the playoffs by way of play-in, basically where they are now. I think I was the exact right amount of woke on the Pacers. I think you might be a little over-indexed. You're like in on them because you love Hallie.
Yeah. I think that's what the danger is, at least.
I love Hallie as well, but I don't think the Pacers are that good. And I don't actually even think Hallie is like that good. You need someone who the Pacers are one like true scorer away from being great. They need like not a combo guard. They need like a real score, maybe not even a guard, like a forward, whatever. But that's where like you had one like real like I'm just a bucket getter into that lineup, and they're great. They're they're the best team in the East, or maybe they're a contender for the East.
Let me do this again then, John. Heat check on these four teams for the East. Then the Pacers in the regular season, will they finish higher than the Cavs?
No.
Wow. Okay. Will they finish higher than the Knicks?
Right there. Those teams will be right there, I think.
So you probably think they have no chance of touching
I think the Pacers. I like the Pacers better, so I'll say Pacers over Knicks. Heat are a wild card. You got to pick someone else because the Heat could finish 9. Like you don't know.
Well,
the Heat have come out of the 8th. Dude, the Heat have come out of the 8th seed into the Eastern Conference Finals twice, not once, twice. So
that's fine. That's not the question. Who gets a better seed? Who finishes higher? That's all. I'm not saying
no idea. The Heat are better. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea where the Heat will finish the regular season.
That's a fair answer. It gets the crux of it. So 76ers, I'm guessing you're saying 76ers.
Yeah, I think the Sixers will finish better. It depends how much time we get from Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid plays 50 games, then the Pacers might finish better. If he plays 55, the Sixers might finish better.
I think I got the Pacers in the regular season over the Knicks and the Cavs. And right. I might agree with you that the Heat are a better team, but I do think that the Pacers might finish with a better record, though. Still, like
the Cavs are. I think the Cavs are a better team, just outright.
That could be a fun bet. Cavs, I think nobody's crazy on their take. Cavs versus the Pacers. That's a tough little bet to make there.
All right, last team everybody's sleeping on in the NBA, and you and I are definitely fully asleep on this. I'm not even going to let you answer that you're anything but fully asleep on these guys because everyone is, including us. It's the Orlando Magic. The freaking Orlando Magic, dude. They're like, what are they, fourth in the East? No, what are they, fourth in the East or something like that right now? Like
I did draft Paolo in fantasy basketball.
They're currently fifth in the East, ahead of the Pacers, ahead of the Knicks, ahead of the Cavs. They're 8-5. Hey, look, will they stay there? I don't know. Look, if I'm being honest, I don't know if this is really sustainable. But dude, I guess maybe all I'm saying is like, let's just take a second for the Magic. We don't get to talk about them very much.
John, I'm Rip Van Winkle on the Orlando Magic. I was asleep. I'm staying asleep. I think this is a flash in the pan. I don't think it's real at all. I think Paolo, right? He's a good player. Got him in fantasy basketball. Big fan of his production when he can make it happen. Doesn't feel to me like they have the pieces to make this sustainable. And I don't even see necessarily like the one guy to be the star power. I mean,
so here's where it is. It's their guys are all Tyrese Halliburton before he went to the Pacers, right? Like nobody would have thought Hallie was Hallie. Like I mean, I loved him his rookie year. I thought he should have won Rookie of the Year. He kind of got hurt at the end, but like I was like, oh, he's a great rookie. And a lot of people now even saying Kings traded the wrong point guard. Shouldn't have kept De'Aaron Fox. Should have kept Hallie instead. but that's where, like, that's basically the age of all of the Magic team. Cole Anthony is like the oldest guy, and he's a third year, right? So we got Mo Wagner, Franz Wagner, both young guys. Cole Anthony, third year. Paulo Banchero, second year, third year, something like that. Markelle Fultz is their freaking veteran. Wendell Carter Jr. I mean, they're just young is what they are. Jonathan Isaac, very young. Joe Ingles is their veteran presence right now. He plays like 10 minutes a game. So I get what you're saying. Doesn't seem like they have the pieces. Like, these are just all emerging players. The question is how much they will emerge.
And Joe Ingles, right? And Joe Ingles.
Yeah, Joe Ingles plays 10 minutes a game, man. He puts up like 5 points. He's all he is he's just a locker room guy. That's what Joe Ingles is.
Makes sense.
So yeah, I mean, these are all just like emerging players, and the question is how much will they emerge?
As much as they have.
As much as they have is 5th in the East. I mean,
okay. What's 5th in the East mean? 12th in the West?
Fifth in the East is ahead of all the teams you said before: Pacers, Knicks, Cavs.
Yeah.
Currently.
Do you think they'll be there? Do you think they'll be there though? I purposely skipped over them when I was doing a little heat check with you.
Yeah.
On which teams are better.
So here's where I think the Magic could land, and I think this would be a great progression in their young core. Is I think they could land in the play-in, and I think they could land that 8th or 7th seed through the play-in. Because if I'm looking at the Hawks,
I could see it in the East.
Because if I'm looking at like the Hawks, Nets, Raptors, maybe the Bulls if they turn it around, or the Hornets if they turn it around, Pistons and Wizards, I don't think they're even in there. I really think the top 6 spots should go to here. The top 6 teams, I think the top 6 spots should go to like Celtics, Bucks, Sixers, Heat, Bucks, Sixers, Heat. And I mean, I think those are the 4 runaways to me. And then we're going to get, 5, 6, 7 are going to be like Pacers, Cavs, Knicks. And so then, I think the Magic are in that like Hawks, Nets, Raptors mix, which could put them in the play-in. I think they could grab a spot in the play-in, and I think they could even steal it out from under a Knicks or Pacers or Cavs team.
Here's a hot take.
If they get hot. Yeah. And that'd be a great progression. And then next year, I think like that's it, but it also depends on the progression. Like, I think everybody thought Hallie was going to get going to get better. Nobody thought he was going to do what he did last year statistically, and they still didn't get into the playoffs. The same thing with the Magic, except for it's like 3 or 4 of those same kind of guy where it's like, oh yeah, like I expect progression, but like any one or maybe even more than one of them could have that big jump break.
Yeah. My hot take is this is weirdly this like 5 to 10 area, let's say, in the East, at least how it currently sits, and even by season then, this is some of the most interesting stuff that happens in basketball, because it does feel like almost anybody could end up there, right? Like, I mean, except for the Pistons, right? The Pistons
but dude, the Wizards I think are even worse than the Pistons.
No, they're terrible. They're awful too, and the Hornets are barely above that. But I do really mean this 5 to 10 range, because let's take out the
Hornets have more potential. Like, the Hornets could actually jump into that next.
That's
tier.
fine. I'm not really trying to make a case for the Hornets here. What I'm saying is this like 5 to 10 range, they're teams that don't feel really like they belong in the playoffs, but like by skill. But you look at them and you're like, well, a certain amount of teams have to go to the playoffs from the East. No, so somebody's got to. And by the time the playoffs come around, those teams who end up in those spots will look like playoff teams.
You're very low.
We're watching, especially when you're talking about like a young team like the Magic. If they do end up in one of those spots, like what you're saying, it won't look like a fluke how I'm coming off right now. And I will have been totally wrong if that happens, right? But I'm still about like, it's a fluke. I don't even think they're going to finish in that spot. But if they do, you actually watch a team like grow and rise from basically nothing to, hey, they're a playoff team in 1 year. And isn't that cool?
That's cool. Yeah.
It's harder to do in the West.
I think
it's harder to do that.
You're definitely way lower on the Cavs than I am, and maybe I'm higher than most people, but I think you're lower than most people. I put the Cavs in there with the Heat. Cavs are in there with that, like at the back end of that top tier, and then there's sort of a chase tier of Pacers and Knicks. So there are like 7 solid teams that deserve it in the East.
See, I do the break at the Heat and just put the Cavs in with the Pacers and the Knicks.
I know.
Probably.
Yeah, I know. But the Cavs I think are better. They're more developed.
I mean, that's fine.
They're more. I mean, they're old. They're further in the progression. The Cavs are honestly.
Some people got the Hawks in that group. I mean, people like the Hawks. Some people.
Hawks fans do. Yeah.
That's what. Hey, those are people too, man.
People from Atlanta.
Hawks fans are people too, y'all. But I was really going to ask you, John, about the Hawks, though. I didn't know we'd get into it, but like the Hawks and the Nets are half a game apart right now. Gun to your head, who finishes better? Because one of those teams is likely a playoff team too, really.
Yeah, I think I actually kind of like the take that neither of them makes the playoffs and the Magic grab the 8th spot. So we go that top tier of Celtics, Sixers, Bucks, Heat, and then Cavs. And then you got Knicks, Pacers through 7, and then I like the Magic taking the 8th spot. Right now, I don't know, most likely scenario, maybe it is the Hawks or the Nets, and of the two, gun to my head, I think I'll probably take the Hawks.
So we're talking about, I mean, and this is taken away from what the Magic have done so far, but if we're being a little hesitant on them, at least, we're talking about like the Magic, the Hawks, the Nets, and the Raps kind of is like a tier, somewhat, you might say. It's fair, at least, to say that.
Assuming. We'll see. I mean, I would love to see the Magic maintain and keep winning like this.
I
would say the Hawks, Nets, and Raps are definitely a tier, and I think the Magic could be in there with that tier.
Right. And one of those teams is going to be the 8, right? There's only 7 teams better than that. So
one of those teams is going to be the 8 seed.
I guess where I'm coming from right now is I could see it being the Nets. I kind of like.
Be. Yeah. I don't feel passionately about that spot, honestly.
What I like about the Nets, though, is that sure, it's a narrative thing completely. And that's how I'm going to look at basketball most of the time. So if you don't like that, stop listening for a second, I guess. But the narrative of that is I like that they stripped their team of all the superstars they've had. They thought they were making a run at a championship. What was that, last year or 2 years ago, I guess? They thought they were real serious contenders, and they did not look like serious contenders all that much at all. Then they strip all their superstars off the team, and it's like the 2001 Seattle Mariners, where all of a sudden your Randy Johnson list, your Ken Griffey Jr. list, your Alex Rodriguez list, and then you
got this Japanese guy,
the season record for most wins. Yeah. And I'm looking at the Nets like, hey, they're not healthy at all. If we're talking about teams that aren't healthy, they're super unhealthy. They're not sitting on all that sour of a record. They're within striking distance for sure. They're going to get healthier. I think the Nets are the team I would pick out of that group to just swing right into the very bottom of the playoffs. Don't get me wrong.
So the Nets, and they did that last year. Of course, they had carryover from their superstars.
Yeah, different circumstances. But maybe same result.
In that analogy, then Mikal Bridges is Ichiro, right? Like, it's like, hey, but this guy that everyone is kind of like, hey, he's all right, he's good. Turns out he's really good. Real good.
I think they have some low key players that
Cam.
Cam's kind of my guy. I mean, it's another.
I don't think what he's doing is sustainable, but
he's hurt now, right? So
the hot streak for sure.
I mean, he's hurt. So if he comes back from an injury and maintains that, at least I think that speaks to like more credible. Hey, it's less of a little spurt of greatness, and maybe there's a little bit of actual greatness in this guy. But I agree. I mean, it's fair to say.
So that's 3 NBA teams everybody's sleeping on. I think we definitely like to think that we were more woke to it.
We know everything there is to know about the NBA, and we're never wrong.
That's right. All right, Casey, I think that's going to wrap the show. We are going to do a couple more spins after this for the live viewers. If you are watching live, stick around for a second on playback. We're going to do a few more wheel spins and give away a few more gift cards. If you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and if you comment, we actually pick people from the comments to win gift cards as well. So if you comment something insightful or something funny, if you make us laugh, that's the top. But if you comment something insightful or something funny, then you could win a $25 gift card from that. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or some other audio platform, please rate us, give us 5 stars, and review. I'm actually going to do a gift card to a random reviewer every 10 reviews. Just trying to give the people who can't make the live show but still like to listen chances to win. So that's it.